let's start.
Okay, so we are supposed to have a bit more students, but we're gonna join later. Yeah, some of them is coming right now.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. We are live now.
Okay.はい。続々と、はい、今参加していただいていると思います。本日はお忙しいところ、ポーツ大学のセミナーにご参加いただきありがとうございます。本日のセミナーはですね、YouTube での同時配信となっております。そのためですね、参加者の皆様は、ミュートにさせていただいております。で、ご質問がある場合はですね、Zoom のチャットボックスにお願いいたします。英語でも日本語でもどちらでも大丈夫でございます。いただいた質問は最後にセミナー後にですね、お答えさせていただきます。で、本日ご参加いただいているポーツマス大学ですね、とても近代的、そして学際的な大学で、学生の満足度や就職率もとても高く評価されております。で、今回は大学担当官のアデルさんとミレーナ先生をお招きしまして、隈研吾氏の建築に関するミニレクチャーと、ポーツマス大学建築学部についてお話をいただきます。はい。それでは、早速どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。So, Milena and Adele, could you please start your presentation?
Okay. Konnichiwa, 皆さんこんにちは。私はミレナ・マルコバと申します。もともとブルガリア人ですけど、13年日本で勉強と仕事をしました。その後、日本の後、ブルガリアに帰って、と2年前にポーツム大学で仕事を始まりました。今日の話のプラン、最初はポーツム大学の紹介、ポーツム町の紹介、その次は建築隈についてと建築についてちょっとお話しします。その時は英語を使います。ごめんなさい。すごく久しぶりに日本語を話すこと可能性なかったから、日本語を話すの自身はすごく低いです。と多分たくさん間違いをしますのですみません。だから建築隈についての話は英語になります。その次はポーツム大学で建築を勉強すること、どういうことになってます。この話も英語でします。と一番最後、多分一番面白い質問、Q&A のセッションで日本語を頑張ります。よろしくお願いします。ポーツム大学は非常に面白い大学で、ポーツムの町の真ん中にあります。ポーツムに電車で来たら、電車ポーツム中心の電車の駅から見たら、どこでも見たら大学の建物が見られます。大学は100年以上の歴史があって、少しずつ歴史的な建物を買って、いろいろな学部になってます。これは非常に独自な特徴。大学の町として考えてください。どこにある？ポーツムどこにある？ロンドンから南に1時間半ぐらい電車でポーツムに着きます。だからポーツムはそんな大きな町ではないけど、ロンドンは簡単に行けます。あと海でフランスで行ける、スペインで行ける。いろいろな動きができる あと天気、すごくいい天気、海に面している町で、天気は非常にいい。私はとても、生活は楽しくて、勉強でフォーカスができる。ロンドンに比べたら、ロンドンはすごくたくさん活動あるけど、やっぱり勉強を強調するところは、ポーツモスの方が静かで、いい勉強ができると思います。これは町の写真。どこで町全体自転車で動ける。だから非常に動きやすい。1869年で始まって、今は3万人ぐらいの学生さんと 20% は外国人の留学生、すごく賑やかなところ。
Sorry, Milena.
Yes.
May I just interrupt briefly?
Yes.
We're not seeing the change of your slides. So I'm just wondering if you are changing your slides.
Oh, I'm really sorry. So you don't, I'm changing the slides, but you don't see it?
No, I'm afraid not. Could you maybe put your slides on full screen? Is that possible?
Okay. Let me check. So how about now?
I think you need to click on the full screen tab, which is, if you look at the bottom, there is the 1, 2, 3, the fourth tab.
The fourth tab.
At the bottom of your PowerPoint. For full screen.
Swap presenter.
At the bottom.
This one?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, it's fine now. So
now you can see it.
Yes. Can you try the next slide?
Yes.
Brilliant. It's working now. Thank you.
Oh, Adele, I'm sorry, and you should have told me before. すみません。いや、スライドについて、ちょっと問題ありまして、ごめんなさい。まあ、これは、ポーツモスの場所、ポーツモスの全体の絵、まあ、これは、そう、ポーツモスの特徴、港にあるタワー、スピナケタワー。学生としてポーツモスに来たらいろいろなサポートがあります。飛行機からピックアップ、相談の人たくさんいます。あと、それぞれの学生は個人的なチューター、スタッフから一人は学生のチューターになってます。勉強するときにもし仕事をしたい場合はパートタイム仕事ができる。卒業の後、仕事の可能性、サポートイベントたくさんあります。あと学生の生活は非常に面白い150ぐらいのクラブ社会があります。ポーツモスの場所は面白いところに近い。ストーンヘンジは 一日で旅行できるバフという歴史的な街、簡単に行ける。だから非常にいい場所にあります。と、まあ、トゥイションフィーについて、15,500パウンド、1年間。アンダーグラドエイトだけは2,600パウンドは最初に払う必要があります。どこに住む学生さん、ポーツモンの中心のところ、非常に大学の建物近くで学生寮、新しい建物が結構あります。あそこ住むことができる。もし個人的な住宅欲しいだったら、これもたくさん可能性があります。3人、4人ぐらい一緒に住宅を借りて住むこともできます。と、まあ、これはポーツモットについて、とこれから言語隈と建築どういうことちょっと紹介したいです。とこれから英語に変わります。So architecture is a very, very exciting field. And I was thinking what I want to talk to you about today, to give you the sense of architecture. And I decided that the work of a Japanese architect, Kengo Kuma, who I know personally, I had the chance to meet him in Italy, and I invited him to come to Bulgaria to do a workshop for students. And this was very exciting. So I want to talk about his building and how he thinks about architecture, because as you know, he designed the Tokyo Olympic Stadium in Tokyo now when the Olympic Games are starting. He's one of the most interesting architects in the world for me nowadays. And in addition to be a good architect, he's very, very open personality, and he loves to teach. So I would like to share a bit about his thinking about architecture. He studied architecture in the US, and he came back to Japan with the idea to fight the huge presence of architecture. He was thinking that architecture has really big presence, and especially in 20th century, architects try to show they are more powerful than nature. But he was bothered by that, and he said, no, architecture should be more sensitive to nature, more sensitive to people. And this is his first project. He tried to dematerialize architecture, try to really change the perception of big buildings. This was not a successful attempt. He was very much criticized for this building, and he had a hard time. But crises in life sometimes are useful because you try to change the way you do things. And he tried completely different approach. So for this observatory he decided to bury the building underground. So the whole building is not visible. If you go to site, you see this nature, and in between nature, you enter into this building. And from the top of the hill, you just see the staircase. So architecture which respects the environment, which makes the people realize that nature is the most important in our lives. He started to practice this type of architecture. And this project, Kitakami Kano Museum in Miyagi, it's very interesting because it was designed in 1999 before the big tsunami and earthquake. And somehow Kengo Kuma understood how we should design the buildings with nature. And this museum, again, is under a hill. On the top of the building, there is greenery. It's very much hidden. And it doesn't look like architecture. It is a landscape. And luckily, after the big earthquake and tsunami, after the big devastation, he went to this building and the building was intact. So the point is that architecture should learn from nature, should think about nature, shouldn't radicalize and devastate nature. So this building is also very interesting because it has some quality from Japanese traditional architecture, how to look at the landscape, how to connect with nature, how to relate interior space with exterior space, and how to use the beauty of nature in your everyday life. So this is a typical Japanese house, which for you looks familiar. But what is interesting is that you design an architecture with spatial partitions, and they can be open, and they can be removed, and the interior space and the exterior space can become one. And human being needs this. Human being needs to have a contact with nature, but also to feel protected by space. So this is another example from Katsura Rikyu in Kyoto, the imperial villa who was very much appreciated by Bruno Taut, an architect from Germany. And this is a terrace which is designed to enjoy the moonlight in the lake. So this type of appreciation, veneration of nature, when you design, is very important feature of a good architect. Next project is a water glass guest house over a lake, and he decided to use glass and very transparent materials. And again, he wanted to dematerialize architecture. He wanted to create architecture which looks like there is no architecture. And he used very skillfully the glass, the light, the reflection. And at night, this building floats in the air. It looks like it doesn't exist, but it is there. So this type of attitude I appreciate very much, to try to make a fusion and balance between nature and the building. The next project is about no theater stage in the forest. I'm not sure if you enjoy no theater. It's a very particular form of theater in Japan, and you need to read a lot in order to appreciate it. This is a traditional no theater stage from Kyoto, and the interesting feature is that this is the stage where the actor performs, and the audience is sitting divided by an empty space. So this division between both spaces is important because the no theater represents the stories from the past, the world of death, of mystery, of spirits, and the audience represents our world nowadays. So there needs to be a distance between them. And when Japan modernized, the no-theater stage was inside the building, like a typical theater. But Kengo Kuma wanted to go back and revive this open-air stage with open-air place for the audience. And this is his beautiful design using hinoki, cedar, sugi and hinoki, cedar tree and cypress tree from the region. And he designed the building to be sustainable, to be in the spirit of Japanese tradition, in the spirit of Japanese culture. And he worked, another interesting feature of him is he's working with local craftsmen. And every place he designed, he goes to the place, he learns, he feels the spirit of the place, the materials, the beauty of materials. And then he collaborates with craftsmen and he develops a very good details, new details, but based on old traditional architecture. And this is something, I think this makes him a very, very good architect. This is another project about a small, tiny minka, tiny farmhouse in a Japanese village. And again, he preserved some beautiful elements from tradition, but also he showed something new. He designed a new type of shoji, and he created a void, the empty space. Empty space in Japanese architecture is very important. And he created this empty space through the house to connect with nature. And this is the interior. So it's very simple. Everything is painted in white, but he used Japanese handmade paper, washi. And this washi, it gives a very beautiful light. And it gives the sense of depth, which is very important for a good space. And also he designed new type of amado. The shoji are made of paper and they are very delicate. So, they need to be protected. So he designed this new pattern for wooden protective elements. And at night, the light coming from this washi is really mysterious and beautiful. The next project is about dematerialization of stone. So in Tochigi, houses used to have stone barns, stone storages, because Japanese architecture is made of wood, and wooden architecture is destroyed easily by fire. So people used to keep their valuables in buildings from stone. And the museum he designed was dedicated to collect some good examples of stone storages from Tochigi into open air museum. But what Kengo Kuma did was not only just to collect the buildings, but also to show how stone can be light, to show the lightness of stone. And he used how you can make a stone light. He used light. He creates some openings in the stone. He's calling this digital gardening. And he developed different patterns. And when the light comes, the stone just become very, very light material. And he used water and a special lighting. So again, he wanted to show, to question the materiality of architecture and to show that it can be very light and ephemeral and floating. And what I want to say, it's all these beautiful, simple looking, elegant forms require a lot of work into the detail. So when you study architecture, you will learn also how to design the details and how to make your ideas from the original sketch, how to make your ideas work until the details where the craftsmen are going to make the building by your sketches. And I hope I have time. I just want to ask how long time I have for the lecture, because I want to have 10 minutes to present you the School of Architecture, and I want you to have a Q&A session. So Adele,
I think,
yeah,
I think 10 minutes about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will show you a little bit more of Coma project. This is a very interesting example. He designed a museum about Hiroshige, and Hiroshige is a very famous woodblock print painter who is famous how he presents rain and how he presents the atmosphere in his paintings. And this is a painting by Van Gogh, the famous Impressionist Van Gogh, who copied the Hiroshige painting. And he was excited by the technique of Hiroshige. And many people said he discovered his own technique influenced by Hiroshige. So Kuma was asked to design a museum about Hiroshige, and in a Japanese setting with mountains, with bamboo. So he decided to use lattices in terms of walls, roofs, and to create a void connection between the city and the mountain. So the building sits between the mountain and the city, and he wants people to pass through the museum to go to the mountains. So the museum is again intermediate space between the nature and the people inhabited space, and he's using reflection and diffusion, and he uses bamboo, he uses glass, he uses screens, many things from Japanese traditional architecture, but with a new feel. And this is example of the details he developed for this. And one more amazing building in China this time, in Beijing, he designed a building entirely of bamboo. Kuma is very innovative. he's not happy with using what other people are doing and copying. So in this building, he decided to explore bamboo as a structural material, because bamboo usually is used for decoration, but not for structure. But Kuma really wanted to work with engineer and create a structural building. And the other important thing for Kuma and important for you in architecture is to make mock-up models. So mock-up models in 1:1 scale, the same scale as your building. And you make a series of these models and you see which one is the best, because drawings represent a diminutive version of the building. But in order to have the feel of the building, you need to explore models in 1:1 scale. So that's what he did before completion. The building is in a very beautiful natural setting. It is a series of spaces with bamboo used for structure, for walls, for ceilings, for decoration. This is the arrival. You have the big column made of bamboo, the wall with bamboo, the roof. Then you have this light which is streams through the bamboo, and the reflection on the beautiful stone flooring. This is the entrance, the dining room, the living room, and the staircase, and the key point, a tea room. He designed a small tea room floating in the space, surrounded by empty space, framing nature, making the connections with nature and making people enjoy and revitalize and harmonize with nature. And maybe the last building which I want to show you, it's a very tiny building in Toyoura. It's just a small hall for a Buddha statue. Toyoura, the temple which accommodated the Buddha statue, was destroyed, and Kuma was asked to design a hall for this Buddha statue. And he went to the place, and he was very inspired by the adobe walls of the town. And he decided to use this material. And he designed a special type of bricks by adobe. And with the bricks, he constructed the temple. And the temple building is very simple, just two types of arrangements of the bricks, one with some small gaps and one which is completely packed. And the first space is the entrance space, where you can the wind can go through the gaps and people can feel comfortable. And then you enter into the specially protected space for the statue. And the wood is dominating here. So what I want to say is that when you do architecture, it's important to understand the place, to see the materials, to feel, and to be creative into finding a contemporary expression for the space. And now I want to talk about studying architecture in Portsmouth. So I will change the presentation and hopefully I can let's check if I have the problem with the slides. Adele, can you see my slide?
Yes, at the moment I can, but I think you need to switch it back to that format where it can flow.
Okay. Can you see the change now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. This is part of the building where you are going to study architecture. It's Eldon building, designed by architects for architects. So it's quite nice building. And there is a school of architecture in this building, but not only school of architecture. This building has a common courtyard, and we share space with the School of Design, with the School of Photography, Textile, Films. So it's called the Creative Cultural Industries. And it's very nice because you can create collaboration with your colleagues in films or fashion. So you can study architecture in bachelor level, and there is a course of architecture and course of interior architecture in design, two different courses. And the school is very collegiate team of people, you will see in a while. And we try to bring real projects for students to learn and get confidence in their design. So our approach, how can we describe our approach? It's about individuals. So we try to help you develop your potential. We don't teach you as craftsmen. We don't ask everybody to do the same, but we try to make you discover your potential in design and to discover your own creativity, your own thinking, and your own presentational skills. So I teach, for example, a big group of students, and the projects, they look totally different from each other, because the important thing is for you to discover your potential. We are just mediators to your creative and educational process. So what is really good is that we focus on real life learning. There is a project office. It's one element from the school. And through this project office, we do real projects. And students have the possibility to participate in real projects before they graduate. And not many schools offer that, I have to tell you. This is a really unique feature of Portsmouth School of Architecture. These are some examples of studios which employ our students. Our students are quite well accepted by many architectural firms. And this is one example of a project our colleagues did with the students in the courtyard, a small pavilion of wood. And we have a very good workshop facilities in the school where you can do models, you can work with wood, you can work with metal, with concrete, with all materials. So the facilities to help your learning is very good. So what is the difference between interior architecture and design and architecture? In general, these elements are part of your study. You will learn about the city, landscape, building, interior, room, furniture, product. But the focus of students of architecture is about buildings, landscape, and city, while the focus of interior architecture is more about product, furniture, room, interior. So the first year you are going to have, both groups are going to have same lectures in history and theory of interior, but then you divide into two different streams. So in terms of structure, how it looks like for undergraduate Bachelor of Architecture, you have 3 years of study. Then you go to architectural practice for 1 year. And you, if you want to continue for master, you come back for 2 years of master study. And RIBA, the Royal Institute of British Architects, is recognizing this degree. So in RIBA, part 1 is bachelor, part 2 is master, and there is part 3, which is professional practice. You can do all these 3 in the Portsmouth School of Architecture. And with this diploma, you can work anywhere. It's very well recognized diploma. And for the interior design, architecture and design is different because it's not RIBA validated. So it's a little bit more free. You have 3 years of degree, and then you have MA in interior design. What are you going to study? The study is divided between 4 subjects: technology, history and theory, communication and design. And everyone, design takes half of the work and the other 3 are 1/3 of the rest. This is your typical schedule. You will have 1 day for design studio. Then you will have time to work on your project by your own. Then you are going to have lecture of technology, lecture of history and theory, communication lecture, and workshop. And past lectures, this is a student society who organize every week very interesting guest lecturers from practice. Very interesting architects are coming and talk about their practice. So this is very interesting. And just to give you an example of the project work, this is first year and second year, where you have to understand what is a building, what is the context, then start to sketch some ideas, express your ideas with models, with sketches, and then how you present and develop your ideas. How do you communicate them? A lot of model making, which is very exciting. You have very good facilities to photograph your models, to work with models. The history and theory, it will start with a word history and theory in first year. You will learn about the history and theory all over the world, including Japan. I have a lecture in Japan about Japan in this. Then year 2, if you study interior architecture, you will have history and theory of interior. If you study architecture, I'm leading a module about modern architecture, history and theory. And again, this is about all modern architecture in the world. Again, a lecture about Japan. Then you have a dissertation, research, writing, and academic skills in the third year. You will receive a lot of support how to to express your ideas in writing, not only designing, but also being able to reflect and write well. My colleague, Tarek from Syria, he's leading a technology program. This is combined, the first year is combined architecture and interior students. You will learn about the basics of structures, load transmission, durability, sustainability of materials. You will try to design some new structures, go into the details. And in the communication, we have very experienced tutors in the newest software, like Rhino, Grasshopper, parametric design. If you want to do parametric design, they're very good tutors. Then there are many professional practice modules, which we will prepare you for the profession. You will receive support how to prepare your CV, your portfolio, your interviews, and so on. Studio work is very, very exciting. This is Antonino from Italy. We have 6 Italian tutors, very passionate, very nice. This is our team of tutors from Greece, Italy, Spain, Syria, US, everywhere, very collegiate people. And yeah, the idea is that you develop your creative skills, your academic skills, and every time you have an academic tutor to support you all issues about living and working in Portsmouth as well. And these are some examples of architects who come to give lectures. You will learn really from top-level professionals as well. And Portsmouth it used to be, it is still the center of naval officers, and military architecture is very important part of Portsmouth heritage. And we will go to work with this heritage and to explore some possibilities for adaptive reuse. There are international trips planned. Usually the first year is to Rome in Italy, then Germany, Netherlands, different architectural trips planned. A lot of partners abroad who you can go after COVID. And you can learn a new language for free if you want to expand your view to the world. And these are, yeah, some of our aims. We want you to think like a designer, to trust your own judgments, to clarify your values, to become an authentic and happy version of yourself, and to be ready for a meaningful employment in the design sector. And very important, to have your design identity, unique individual design identity. So, yeah, I think you can find more information at the website. If you are interested, you can contact some of the tutors to ask some questions. This is again some of our student project. So yeah, I think that was in short what I prepared for today.
Thank you very much, Milena. It was great, really great presentation, especially, like we had Olympic opening ceremony at the building, which designed by Kengo Kuma. So it's great to know about his work too. So
Yeah, great.
yeah, great. So we have several questions. So
Yes.
can we move to a Q&A session now?
Yes, let's move.
Great. So the first question is, if I choose architecture BA, so can I also take same module from interior architecture BA?
No, I think this is not possible because the programs are designed with separate aims.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's not possible to, you have some modules which you and architecture and interior are together, but if you study architecture, I think it's not possible to take modules of interior, but let me check with Adela.
As you're saying, Milena, that's correct. So there are certain modules where you have a combination of architecture and interior architecture and design students together in the first year. But then because of the specializations that they have separately, it will then need to move on into their own modules and their own specialized units, which will then be different. So there are some similarities in that overlap in the course in the first year, but after that, they will split and they will do their own specialized modules.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for your answer. So we have a more question. I got a message from directly. 2月入学があるコースもあるようですが、9月入学と何か違いはありますか？建築関連でも1月か2月入学のコースはありますか？ということで。So the question is, it seems your university have a February intake, but are there any, do you have any January or February intake course related to architecture? And if so, are there any differences between September intake?
I think Adele, you better answer this.
At the moment, the architecture courses are only offered in autumn, which is our main intake. So we don't have an intake for architecture courses in January or February, unfortunately. But you never know. We might do this in the future. But at the moment, they are offered in the main intake in autumn.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Other question is, currently I don't ask, sorry, I speak in English, Japanese first. 建築のバックグラウンドがないのですが、他の学校の建築のプレスマスターに行き、大学院はポーツマスに出願することはできますか？ということで。So the question is, I don't have any background of architecture, so is it possible to apply after I went to pre-master course of other university?
Yes, we have many students who don't have a background of architecture, but they have done some art activities, painting or sculpture or installation. So yes, you don't need a background in architecture, but you need to have some interest in creative field. And we ask you to present a portfolio, and the portfolio can be only painting or can be only other creative work you have done.
Okay, so please, Adele.
Because you mentioned the pre-masters, at the moment, there's no pre-masters for this, but as Milena says, you can come from different background.
Okay, great.
Yes, we don't have a foundation year. We could offer some foundation at the moment. We don't offer it.
Sorry, Milena. There is a foundation for bachelors, but there's no pre-masters for postgraduates.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for your answers. Yes, and another question is, maybe you can see in the chat. The question is, I have a couple of questions. Is there any specific software you will teach for the presentation, or instance, IBM or or it's up to the student?
Yes, this is a good question. You will receive some training in Revit and I think Rhino as well, but you will have options to learn a Grasshopper or other software. So we have, if you are interested more, you can check with the tutor about this software.
I believe BIM is optional as well.
His name. Sorry?
I believe BIM is optional as well.
Yes, if you want BIM, you can find opportunities. So in principle, there is no one obligatory software, but the tutor shows you some options and you choose the option you want to study.
And I think there's a second part to that question. It says, has England lifted up all the restrictions? Are there any change to study styles, the online that's going on? Yes. So you are correct. England has lifted up its restrictions. Everybody is going about already. And our students are all back on campus. So our autumn intake will be as normal, hopefully. If there's no further change or later government announcements. But students from all over the world still are going through the pandemic at different stages. So we are still able to offer online study for a restricted period of time. So depending on the situation in your country, if you have any issues flying across, if you don't, then we would highly encourage that students come to campus and study face-to-face with their tutors.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we got the last question. Sorry. If I don't have any architecture and art background, do I have to take foundation course? Yep.
So if you're from high school, let's say, and if you were from a science background or a non-arts background, if your qualification is equivalent to our A levels, and we have this information on our website as well, you do not need to actually come from an arts background to enter our bachelor degree in architecture. So if you are coming in the first year, you do not need to put a portfolio together for bachelor degree. For masters, yes. But for bachelor, it's not necessary. We have students who have come from science backgrounds before. So they've studied science, but they are passionate about architecture. So maybe at home or as a hobby, they've done their own sketching, they've come up with their own ideas. So you do need to understand what architecture is, because we do ask for a personal statement. And you can then express your interest in architecture in your personal statement.
And I would like to add, we start from basics. So we really will teach you from A and B in architecture. So it doesn't, the background is not, it's important, but not obligatory. If you are passionate to learn, we really start from AB and you would be able to learn the basics. So don't worry about that. And I can understand the last question. I want to answer it. If you have EQ Kenchiku in Japan, you are very welcome to come to the postgraduate. It's yes, it's absolutely enough to apply for a postgraduate.
Okay. The last question, I mean. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, they said if they graduated 2 years college of architecture, yeah, and have a qualification for the first class architect. So it's possible to apply the postgraduate master degree directly.
I think so. Let Adele confirm, but
right. So I'm just making reference now. So for postgraduate students, if you have finished a university degree, I think here it says a gakushi, with a final grade of at least a GPA of 2.7, you can be considered for our master's course. If you don't have this, but you have work experience instead, we might also be able to consider the application as well.
Thank you so much.
You can put in your portfolio the projects you have done, and then we will look at your projects. And yeah, I think you can be accepted based on the projects you have done.
It's really great to know that. Thank you very much for your answer and also for all of your presentation. We had a really good time to know about your university more.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope to see some Japanese students here, really.
That's great. So, はい、それではお時間になりましたので、ウェビナーの方を終了とさせていただきます。もし他にご質問ある場合は、弊社ですね、最有形東京オフィスにご連絡いただければと思います。はい。それではですね、本日大変ありがとうございました。失礼いたします。Thank you very much for Milena and Adele.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for student too.
さよなら。